That week had been hell at the firm. Audit season always was. My name's Lucas Harding, 36, an internal auditor for a mid-sized logistics company out in Colorado Springs. Married 6 years to Camille, a school counselor. On the surface, we had it all. A home in a good neighborhood, a loyal golden retriever named Moose, and a rhythm that looked perfect to everyone else. But that night, the air felt wrong. Before we begin, please like this video and subscribe Relation Tales. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. As I stepped out of the car, my headlights caught something. No, someone lying crumpled on the driveway near the shrubs. A man, late 30s, bleeding from the nose and lip, suit jacket torn, shoes scuffed like he'd been dragged. I rushed over. "Hey, you okay?" I asked, already pulling out my phone. His eyes fluttered open. "Don't, please." Before I could process what was happening, the front door burst open. "Lucas," Camille's voice cracked. "Don't call the cops." I looked up. She was barefoot, mascara smeared, eyes wide with panic. She rushed to me, grabbing my arm. "Who is this guy?" I asked. She looked like she wanted to lie, but couldn't. I don't know. He tried to break in. Something didn't sit right. The man had a Rolex. A good one. The kind burglars don't wear. And Camille? She was trembling, but not from fear. From shame. I helped the man up, told him to sit on the porch step. He didn't speak another word. Inside the house, things were worse. A wine bottle lay broken near the dining table. One glass untouched, the other half full. The couch cushions were out of place. Camille's phone was on the floor, cracked, and that soft perfume she only wore on special nights. It still hung in the air, thick and unmistakable. "Camille," I said slowly, "tell me the truth." Her lips quivered. She stepped back, hands to her face. I didn't mean for her to go this far. And in that moment, everything broke. 6 months earlier, our lives had started drifting. I'd taken a promotion, more hours, more pressure. Camille had started staying late at work, too. Or so she said. We still had dinners, laughed at reruns of The Office. But she stopped reaching for my hand, stopped asking about my day. Her phone had become her second soul, always in her pocket, never left unlocked. I blamed the stress, the dullness that seeps into every marriage if you let it. But now, watching that strange man flinch every time I moved, and watching Camille fall apart, I knew there was another man. And this wasn't just an affair. This was something deeper, something dangerous. The paramedics arrived before I could press her further. The man, his name was Greg Saunders, refused to talk to them, refused the hospital, and refused the cops. Said he fell, but the bruise across his jaw, that wasn't a fall. That was a fist. And the worst part, when the ambulance drove away and the porch lights buzzed quiet, I saw it. Camille had tears in her eyes, but they weren't for me. "Were you in love with him?" I asked. She didn't answer. That silence told me everything I needed to know. Over the next week, I didn't explode. I didn't scream. I didn't pack bags or threaten lawyers. I watched, observed, listened, because sometimes silence is more terrifying than rage. And while she thought I was breaking down, I was building something brilliant, something undeniable, something that would tear her illusion apart, piece by piece. And it all began with the name Ron Carter, my best friend and my lawyer. He didn't flinch when I told him what happened. "She wants a war?" he asked. "Give her a masterpiece." I didn't want vengeance. I wanted justice. And I was going to serve it cold, with perfect precision. The following days unfolded like a dream I couldn't wake from. Except I was wide awake, watching my wife act like the world hadn't flipped on its axis. Camille moved through the house cautiously, like a thief scared of being caught again, but too proud to admit what she stole. She still made coffee in the morning, still said goodnight, but her eyes, those once clear hazel eyes, held a secret now, one she assumed I'd swallow and forget. But I was Lucas Harding. I didn't forget, and I was done swallowing lies. I started with her phone records, a quiet call to the provider, and a few signatures later, I had access to the last 3 months. Hundreds of texts, dozens of calls to the same number, late nights, lunch breaks, even during family events, calls to someone labeled Kayla G. Spoiler, Camille had no friend named Kayla. I cross-referenced the number. It belonged to Greg Saunders. The same man who bled on my driveway. But that wasn't even the real twist. Greg wasn't just some sleazy affair partner. He was married, with 2 kids, a financial consultant with a reputation so clean you could eat off it. I found his office, posed as a potential client, listened to him talk about trust and loyalty like he hadn't been sneaking into another man's home behind his back. And as I shook his hand and walked out of that building, I knew one thing. This wouldn't be a revenge story fueled by fists. No, this would be a collapse, a surgical dismantling of their lives. Quiet, strategic, brutal. Camille still didn't know I had her passcode. One evening, while she showered, I opened her iPad, synced with her messages, her photos, her entire digital soul. They had talked about me like I was some background noise. He's always tired. You make me feel alive. Last night was worth every risk, every second. My hands trembled, but not with sadness, with resolve. Buried in the messages, I found something else. Voice memos, sent from Camille to Greg. I played one. If Lucas ever finds out, I swear I'll say he hit me. I'll make sure he loses everything. You don't get it. He's dangerous when pushed. I froze. That one sentence changed the entire game. She wasn't just unfaithful. She was planning an exit strategy, a false one that painted me as the villain. I closed the tablet, walked downstairs, looked at her folding laundry. How many lies had those hands folded? Everything okay? She asked, like she hadn't shattered our world. I smiled. Yeah, just tired. She nodded, satisfied. She didn't see it. But in that moment, I made a silent vow. If she won a war, I'd give her the kind of war that ended with everything she cared about, burned to ash. Ron met me in his office 2 days later. He was tall, sharp-jawed, and had a legal mind sharper than barbed wire. She's laying a trap, I told him, and I need a net of my own. We gotta work. First, a digital backup of every message, memo, and call log. Admissible evidence. Second, a hidden camera installed in our living room and bedroom. State legal. Discreet. Third, a financial audit of our joint accounts. Camille had opened a separate credit card, spending thousands at boutique hotels and designer stores. She wasn't just cheating emotionally. She was building a separate life, using my paycheck to finance her fantasy. Ron handed me a folder. We're building a timeline. You're not reacting anymore, Lucas. You're constructing. I nodded. And when the moment's right, she'll never see it coming. But revenge isn't a straight line. It's a slow unraveling. And sometimes, the lies fall apart on their own. That weekend, Camille left for a wellness retreat with her friend Aubrey. Except Aubrey posted beach selfies from Santa Monica, while Camille told me she was in Aspen. Mistake number 1. I tracked her location. She was at the Goldridge Inn, the same hotel Greg had used in his receipts. I called the front desk, asked for Camille Saunders. They said she just checked out with Mr. Saunders. Mistake number 2. That evening, I greeted her with roses and dinner. I acted like the clueless fool she thought I was. She smiled, relieved, kissed my cheek. I took a shower. She went to bed. And while she slept, I sent everything, every screenshot, every audio file, every photo, to Greg's wife. I didn't know her, but I knew she deserved truth. Her name was Lauren Saunders. And when she called me the next morning, voice shaking, heartbroken, I told her everything. Not because I needed to, but because no one deserved to drown in someone else's lies. But this wasn't over. Not yet. Because Camille wasn't just going to lose Greg. She was about to lose something even bigger. Her image. Her future. Her stability. Because I had planted a seed, and soon, it would grow into a reckoning no one could stop. The first crack wasn't loud, but it was deep. It came 2 days after I sent the files to Lauren Saunders. At exactly 7:14 a.m., Camille's phone buzzed like a wasp nest. I was pouring coffee in the kitchen when I saw her face. Frozen. Pale. Her hand trembled as she held her phone. I didn't need to ask. Lauren had called her. Who's Lauren? I asked casually, sipping from my mug. Camille looked at me, throat dry. She's nobody. I raised an eyebrow. Because she called you 6 times and left 3 voicemails. Camille stood still, then bolted into the guest bathroom. She stayed locked in there for almost an hour, and I let her stew. Because now, the real game had begun. That evening, I called Detective Morgan Hale, a friend from college who now worked in cybercrime. I needed confirmation that everything I had, texts, voice memos, hotel bookings, was legally airtight. Morgan was blunt. If she tries to claim abuse or smear you during divorce proceedings, this stuff doesn't just protect you. It buries her credibility. I asked him one more favor. Can you trace any deleted apps or hidden communications? Anything encrypted she thought she was smart enough to hide. He smiled. Give me 48 hours. Back at home, Camille was unraveling in real time. She barely spoke at dinner. Didn't even pretend to scroll Instagram anymore. She stared at me like she was waiting for a bomb to drop, but couldn't figure out where the ticking came from. I knew what she was doing. Calculating. Wondering if Greg had confessed. If I knew anything. If I was playing dumb, or really just a clueless husband. The truth? I was miles ahead. Because the next morning, I walked into my office and found something sitting on the floor. A manila envelope. No name. No note. Just photos. Camille and Greg. Together. Holding hands outside a cabin near Pikes Peak. One of the photos? Taken the same weekend, she told me she was visiting her sister in Seattle. There were more. Kissing in a parking garage. Checking into a luxury suite under fake names. It wasn't just infidelity. It was systematic deceit. I called Ron immediately. It's time. That afternoon, Camille came home early from work. Eyes glassy, cheeks hollow. She stood in the doorway of my office. I need to tell you something. I nodded. Go ahead. She sat down, fingers knotted like barbed wire. I haven't been honest with you. There was someone, but it's over now. It was stupid. I felt alone, and Greg. I raised my hand. She stopped. You're not confessing, I said quietly. You're negotiating. She blinked. I stood and handed her a single photograph from the manila envelope. Her heart sank visibly. I handed her another. Then another. I've known for weeks, I said. And while you were playing house with him, I was preparing to end yours. Her voice cracked. Lucas, please. It wasn't like that. I didn't mean to. You didn't mean to get caught. I snapped. That's what you didn't mean. She stood suddenly. Are you going to divorce me? No. I replied coldly. You're going to watch everything you built burn first. Ron and I launched the next phase, clean and quiet. We opened a separate account, shifted all my direct deposits there, removed her as emergency contact from every form I could find. I even changed my healthcare beneficiary. She didn't notice. Not until she got a call from the bank saying her debit card had been declined at a boutique downtown. She stormed into the house, wild-eyed. You cancel my access? I looked up from my laptop. I didn't cancel anything, I said calmly. I just stopped paying for your affair. Her face twisted. That's not fair. Neither is betrayal, I replied. A week later, Morgan called back. Lucas, he said. We found something. He emailed me an audio file. I played it on speaker. It was a recording. One Camille had sent to a friend named Melanie, laughing. Greg thinks I'm going to divorce Lucas and run away with him. Poor guy. I told him what he wanted to hear. Honestly, I'm just writing this out until I figure out who'll give me a better deal, Greg or Lucas. It's like The Bachelor, but with bank accounts. I stare at the speaker, stunned. Not even Ron was prepared for how cold that sounded. We had everything. Proof of infidelity, of manipulation, of fraudulent intent. Now it wasn't just emotional revenge. It was legal ammunition. And Camille? She had no idea how badly she just buried herself. The next morning, I made her breakfast. Her favorite, avocado toast, soft-boiled eggs, coffee with almond milk. She looked at me like I'd grown horns. What's this for? I smiled. For the show. She blinked. What show? The one you're about to star in. Before she could answer, there was a knock at the door. A courier handed her a thick envelope. Divorce papers. Full evidence file. Request for sole ownership of property and financial separation. She turned pale. You're serious. I've never been more serious. And then I leaned in. You were auditioning men to see who'd give you a better life. But sweetheart, you forgot one thing. I own the stage. She didn't cry. Not yet. But she would. Because everything she thought she had was slipping through her fingers. Camille didn't leave the house that day. Not because she wanted to stay, but because she had nowhere to go. Her affair partner, Greg, had gone radio silent. His wife Lauren had thrown him out and filed for divorce, thanks to the evidence I provided. The Saunders' 2 kids now lived with Lauren, and Greg was crashing in some hotel, avoiding the fallout. Camille was stuck, and I wanted her to feel every bit of that silence. That night, She came to me in tears, like old times. Except back then, her tears had meant something. Now, they were bargaining chips. "Lucas," she whispered, kneeling beside me on the couch. "I made mistakes, but I never stopped loving you. I was just lost." I looked at her hands. The same hands that held another man's face. Another man's body. Another life. "I think you lost your way when you chose to humiliate the man who gave you everything." She flinched. "I never meant to humiliate you." "But you did," I cut in, over and over again. Then I said what finally broke her. "I'm not angry anymore. I just don't care." Her lip trembled. That hit harder than shouting ever could. A week later, I moved into a furnished condo downtown. Moose, our dog, came with me. He'd been sleeping beside me more often anyway. I left Camille with the house. Temporarily. The plan was already in motion. She thought the house was still half hers. But Ron had uncovered a detail Camille had forgotten. I'd purchased the property 6 months before we married. She never got added to the deed. The moment the divorce finalized, she'd be evicted. But my revenge wasn't just legal. It was personal. I contacted her employer, the high school she worked at, and asked if I could speak to the principal as part of a spousal support report. He agreed, and as gently as I could, I told him Camille had been having a long-term affair with a married man, during school hours on occasion. I presented no hostility, just facts, and a timeline. The principal's face turned stone. "She counsels vulnerable kids," he said. "That matters." She didn't get fired, but she got investigated. Suddenly, she was no longer the golden counselor with the perfect marriage. Her world began to rot from the inside out. In the following weeks, her text changed from begging to bitter. "You're punishing me just to feel powerful. We could have fixed this. You're acting like I'm a monster." "No, Camille. I wasn't punishing her to feel powerful. I was setting a precedent. That betrayal, calculated and deliberate, would never go unanswered." One morning, Ron called. "She finally signed the papers." "In the house?" I asked. "Yours. Officially." I waited until the weekend. Then, with quiet satisfaction, I sent her the final letter, notice of move out. She had 7 days. That evening, she showed up at my condo. Hair undone. Face bare. Her eyes didn't hold fire anymore, just regret. "I don't have anywhere else," she murmured. I stared at her. "You had a home," I said. "You just didn't want it." And I shut the door. Not out of cruelty, but out of peace. She had made her choices, and I had simply returned the consequences, wrapped in silence. The day Camille moved out, it rained. Not a storm, just one of those quiet, gray drizzles that makes the whole world feel hushed. Fitting, really. Her exit came without drama. No shouting. No thrown suitcases. Just a single silver sedan pulling out of the driveway, one box of clothes on the back seat, and a woman who had finally run out of second chances. I didn't watch her leave. I didn't need to, because revenge wasn't just about destroying her. It was about rebuilding me. The first thing I did was take Moose on a long hike up Pikeview Trail. As we climbed, I realized something that surprised me. I felt lighter, like the weight I'd been carrying wasn't heartbreak, but denial. For too long, I told myself that Camille and I could get back what we had. But what we had was never coming back, because she had burned it, not with one bad decision, but with dozens of small, selfish ones. And I had finally stopped trying to rescue her from them. 3 weeks later, I ran into someone I didn't expect to see. Lauren Saunders, Greg's ex-wife. It was at the coffee shop near my office. She spotted me first, approached quietly. "I didn't get the chance to thank you," she said. I nodded. "Didn't do it for thanks." She smiled. "I know, but you gave me the truth. That's more than most people get." We talked for a while, about her kids, the divorce, how she was slowly rebuilding. I admired her strength. And maybe, in some strange way, we both saw something in each other. The bruises of betrayal, the hunger for peace, the strength that came after. We didn't plan to meet again, but we did. Then again. And soon, coffee became dinner. And dinner became something more. Not a rebound. Not a distraction. Just two people who'd been to war, and now finally knew the value of real love. As for Camille, I heard through mutual acquaintances that she left town. Tried starting over in Phoenix. New job. Smaller apartment. Fewer friends. Greg? He never recovered. His firm let him go. His kids refused to visit. Lauren made sure every legal detail of their divorce was airtight. They were footnotes now. Once loud, now silent. Exactly as they deserved. Some people say the best revenge is living well. I say it's loving well. Fully. Honestly. Without fear. Because the moment I stopped chasing closure from the person who broke me, I found healing in someone who never wanted to hurt me at all. So if you're ever betrayed, don't fight for someone who watched you drown. Stand. Walk. Rebuild. Let them sink in the storm they created, and rise in the light they'll never touch again.